going on there, as I said, with softball, you're going to have an opportunity to make a whole lot more money because the business is growing. And when you have a business that's growing and it's going to grow up and it's going to move further, then you can take advantage of more opportunities. But let me go back and let's stay on track and let's get back where it is. I took a look at the USA report, and what they do annually, USA will come out and they'll let us know all of the schools, what they're doing, what their results are, and how they're doing in total revenue. Okay, from an athletic standpoint, and how is that building in? And there's some HBCU schools on this list as well. They kind of get, I think it goes up to 250. But the big dog of them all is Ohio State, the Buckeyes. I mean, the Buckeyes, they look at it, they have a total revenue of $251 million, and they have total expenses of $225. So at the end of the day, they're coming out ahead, and they don't have a total allocation of anything. They're the Buckeyes. Their brand is so strong. Okay. Now, when you have a strong brand and you have a supporter, whether it's Nike, it's Adidas, it's Puma, it's Under Armour, okay, you have to understand in that brand that you're also going to be looking at licensing fees, okay? So whoever's trending as high as they can in the market, that means revenue back to you. So it doesn't just, okay, we got a sponsorship. That's just the beginning of it, okay? Now, when you get to the fact of if they're out trending, and I took a look and I said, okay, well, let me see who's doing what. And when I looked at Southern, I'll give you an example. I looked at Coppin State, and you got Coppin State on the list. And here's what surprised me about Coppin State is when you pull up the report, you look at it with Coppin State, you have to ask yourself, okay, what changed? And part of this is just digging through and looking at information and being able to see, okay, what did we do before and what are we doing now? You got Morgan State on the list as well. So you've got quite a few schools, goes all the way down to Alcorn State, but I'm going to look at Coppin. I'm going to look at Coppin, and I want to tell you what the numbers are. And it's the USA report that they bring out. So it'll bring you 222, and it'll say, well, Coppin's total revenue was $4 million, okay? And ticket sales were about 32,000, contributions about 500,000, okay? Now, here's the difference that what changed for Coppin, okay? And whenever I go looking for it, I'm going to tell you this is what I mean. HBCU, okay, is a corporate brand. HBCU basketball, HBCU softball, those are individual corporate brands under the umbrella of the university. And the brand is very important. It's their brand. They've earned the right to that brand, but there's also revenue tied to that brand. So I said, what changed? I looked at Coppin student fees. Well, that didn't change. That's normal. But here's what was the difference. If I go back to 2019, and I look at Coppin State, their license rights and licensing, even back to 2018, went all the way down to 77,000. Okay, then it moved up 2019, 184,000, 131, and then all of a sudden, 21-22, it jumped up to 428,000. Okay, now what does that say? That tells me money right there. They're either connected with the right sponsor, or they're in a trending product, or they're with a partner that can actually produce more revenue because they have more sales. So I wasn't ignoring the fact what I was looking at from a business acumen standpoint and running the research on Under Armour. Okay, and I know Under Armour's stock price has been cut by 66% over the last year. That means the revenue is going backwards, which means the licensing rights and fees of revenue is going backwards too. Okay, now that could get turned around. The CEO, that's their job. That's when you bring Wall Street in and you got a CEO that's sitting at the table. That's their job to forecast that out. And that's at the end of the day, anytime you do anything like this, folks, I'll tell you, you can't miss. Okay, you got shareholders sitting there. All right, so when it comes to this corporate enterprise business, and I told you, here's what you do when you got alignment of partners, because one partner can't serve it all. And here's what happens in athletics. In basketball, you probably need a pair of shoes. Okay, you're going to need some socks and maybe sweatsuits, couple things. Football, you're going to get a little more intensive. You're going to need a lot more equipment. Okay, but here's what's surprising. You know, when you go to play golf, you need a glove and some golf clubs. You go run track, you need some track shoes and a uniform. When you play softball, there's so many different items that you have to use. You have to use your bats. Okay, bats are special because they're like loaded bats. It's like having baseball, somebody have a cork in your bat, they're live bats. So when I see our girls go play against bats that where our bats aren't live, but we play the opponent's bat and they're getting an extra 20 yards out of each hit, that's the difference, okay? You also got to have glasses. You got to have shades. You got to have pads. You got to have sliding pads. There's just a numerous number of items, okay? And when you're with a partnership, you got to ask yourself, back in the day, a partnership was great, okay, because of the fact that it serviced one, but now the brands and the kids have brands, the athletes have brands. There's so many different products. So I'm wondering, with softball, it might not be the best opportunity to limit yourself to one. I mean, you're going to need Under Armour. Example, you need Dick's Sporting Goods is an ideal partner, okay, for softball. One, because they have every product in there they need. And when you have every product that the sponsor can give you, you're going to buy more and you're going to increase sales. Now, let's get back to where I'm going when you hear me say HBCU softball, women's softball, corporate enterprise business, okay? The trending growth, they're expecting somewhere in the neighborhood of about $500 million, okay? That market can grow. And I went out as far as 235, okay? So that's quite a bit. It'll peel back the onion. But you have to ask yourself, if we got 10% of that, okay, that's a huge, huge amount, okay? Now, here's the deal with the sponsor. And when you have a brand, I've never seen a sponsor control when you have a collective body. Normally, you're going to the sponsor, and the sponsor is saying, hey, how much revenue can you bring me if I sponsor you? Okay? But here's the flip side. That's really easy for the young lady in Iowa, okay? When you look at the State Farm commercial, okay, they're not looking to say for us to buy more. They're looking at another culture to say, here's the best basketball player in the world. We're going to put her on State Farm so we can have more individuals who are watching her game buy more State Farm products and services. That's what that's all about. Now, when you come over to our community, this is a little bit different for us because we're already buying the products and services, okay? And you have to follow what I'm saying. We're buying the product. We spend more money in America than any other culture. The only problem is that is we don't make the most money. Now, when I look at the HBCUs, and I'll lay it flat out, this is something that's totally different for me, okay? Because I've seen a lot of things in corporate enterprise business, but I've never seen when a collective group, which the HBCU is, okay? Now you have a collective athletic group, okay? Which you have the overall conferences, SEAC, MEAC, etc., okay, CIAA. Then you go a step further than that, okay? I'm going to go a step further than that. You have a collective body of individuals, which is almost the same as almost having a union, okay, in that collective body. Now, when I look at that from my perspective, and I'm coming from corporate enterprise, and I tell you, I'm coming from the GOP side, I'm telling you what they're looking for. You already have all the members in line that are going to spend the money. When you have that much body of people, and you got some smart people in the HBCU, okay, I'm one of the hardest working, but I ain't the smartest. But you might get there faster, but when I get there, I'm going to know what to do with it. So I know there's some smart people out there going to be listening to this. I'm telling you, when you have a collective body, let's take 50,000. Are you aware that you can go just about to any corporate America and let them know, you know what, we've got 50,000 people and we can direct all 50,000 to spend our money because we're already buying Nike. There's no doubt about it. We're already buying AT&T. Everybody's running around with an Apple phone. We're already buying Southwest, okay? Southwest is not coming to us to say do a Southwest commercial because you're already spending the money, okay? But you got to learn sometimes you got to shift the mountain, okay? And sometimes it may not be Southwest. It may be better to go to America because if you got a body and a collective body, you get to ask for your demand, okay? And that's what LeBron James does, okay? When I look at the HBCU and the body of people, I can guarantee you this, there's a whole lot more people than one person, LeBron James, okay? And you have a collective power in the HBCU, the corporate enterprise of the women's softball, you got the collective power to go in there and say, look, we have this many student athletes, this many family members, and we want a nutritional product that we can give our young ladies so they can be healthy in the morning before they play. See, you got power like that. That's what I'm talking about. This is a corporate enterprise business. You get to choose who you want to do business with. Okay, it doesn't flip the other side around. And that's where I mean from the women softball, you're a corporate enterprise brand. And you have to look at it and say what's going to work best for the body of the whole. And when you move into that, because these young ladies, let me tell you, from corporate America, they already know. I guarantee you could put these ladies under any brand and they can Instagram, they can TikTok, they can make that brand's revenue double in a heartbeat. Okay? And that's worth something. Okay? That's not free. And then there's also community appearances, things you can do. You got a body of a corporate enterprise business that has revenue streams. And I guarantee you this, I bet for any other corporation that's out there, as those young ladies, if they have an opportunity to generate revenue under the brand belongs to the university. Okay, that's the university's brand. But if they have an opportunity to generate more revenue in HBCU softball by selling apparel and gear, what's a license fee, and you turn that over to the student athletes, I guarantee you this from the business acumen and all my years in corporate America, you'll double and triple, and they won't be asking or knocking on your door for any money. That's where I'm saying this should be. Because when you've got a brand and you've got players and you got bats and gloves and you got youth and family and everybody, that's a collective body of people. And there ain't too many people out there, I'll tell you, in America today that can walk into a corporate sponsor and tell them, I got a collective body of people. Well, how many you got? I got 50,000 people that I can move to come in and buy your product. See, you have that power. It doesn't work the other way around. It's been allowed to, okay? But let me just tell you, I'll tell you for the life of me, GOP, Republican, corporate America, man, they need Black America more than you ever believe, okay? And when it comes down to your need, the biggest thing, they just don't know how to ask, okay? I'm looking at Donald Trump show you shoes. He's trying to say, we need your help, okay? And the other party's saying the same thing, except everybody's gotten frustrated because when you get a university like St. Augustine that's going down, man, where's the vice president? Where is the call to say, let's stop? Okay, these things, man, this is different. This is a different time, okay? And the way you used to do business, that's why I say I'm looking at contracts and I'm looking at this. You might need a few more partners to come on in because there's several partners that are leading. Okay, you got Mizuno, you got Louisville. You've got a lot of different partners that are involved in the women's softball, and somehow we need to be able to continue where it's not just one. Okay, understand that CIAA, they have their conference, but you also are a brand within your entity as a team, as a unit and group. So it's time. What I'm sharing here, you've got to move forward if you want to get what you're going to get, because the future, if you can't sit here and get an alignment with a partner or a sponsor that's trending upward, meaning trending upward, they're doubling and tripling revenue. What that does for you, that doubles and triples your licensing fees. This is common knowledge. There's nothing difficult about it, but what you got to do, you got to unify that, okay? And the next thing is your women, okay? They're women who are out there. And one thing I learned from coaching, and I'll tell you, I learned this from Coach V, Coach Felita Johnson, and Coach Sheila, okay? And they told me, let me tell you about women when it gets to uniforms. And I didn't know this till they told me. They said, Coach Mike, and I'm coaching women's basketball, and I was passing out uniforms. They said, Coach Mike, you can't give all the ladies the same uniforms like you do the boys, because the women are different. Their bodies are different. They don't put on each other's clothes, okay? That's what got me sparked up and said, whoa, wait a minute. We can't be having short and exchanging clothes. These women, they need their own gear and a surplus of it. And for the life of me, one thing I'll tell you that the athletes got to be able to do, they got to be able to understand the purpose of what they're doing, and they got to be able to work, and they got to be able to work in the community, okay? But you have more power, okay? And you got some smart people. You got some smart people in analytics. You got some smart people that can go on that report and look at the numbers. And you got smart people that can look at all the licensing fees and say, what can we do is tripling our license fee revenue? Because that's the new game. You might not get them in the seats in the stadium, okay? But you can get them other ways that you can bring them in, okay? And you can do it a different way and also market your brand, Okay, because the revenue, if you bring Wall Street in, Wall Street's going to look at how can we can increase, what areas can we increase that can actually give us more revenue. And that USA report, every single one of them, their licensing fees went up. Okay, and that's the key. So this is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio podcast. I understand I went through and kind of said a bad contracts. I wanted to follow that up and tell you, you know what? I don't see the projection on the revenue. And if I don't see the projection on the revenue, then that's concerning to me. Okay, because I got to look at the future. And I always tell you, I don't look at today. Today is already past us. But if we go down into next year after that, we want to have partners that are trending because we want our revenue to trend. And for the life of me, I'd get those student athletes involved in the women's softball and really march in there and say, hey, let's collectively be able to sell our brand too, because that's your team revenue. And if the university, I'm telling you, there's no suggestion of me going there because that money's not there. Okay, but there's other ways that revenue generate comes in. But you got to look at it as corporate enterprise business, and you got to find your revenue streams. There's a whole lot of them for those young ladies that are playing softball. So this is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio podcast. We always going to tell you all things are possible to those who believe. I got my Bears cap on today. And got to get my Shaw Bears, but I got to use this one. But then I got to talk about the Chicago Bears and that quarterback. What a young man is doing things his way. So you keep it positive, and we'll do the same. But again, you're listening to the Money Mike Syndicated Radio podcast, and we'll see you soon.